I'm nudging everyone to have a discussion, but they've just met. So let me actually ask Angela to kick us off.
Oh, excellent. Well, I'll give a quick overview of Music Minds Matter. So if you're not familiar with us, Spencer and I it actually started as an informal meetup for the music community. I'll let Spencer share a little bit more about the background there, but we started meeting monthly for the music community, just giving space to talk about mental wellness. It's kind of by musicians for musicians, and it could be anyone. You could be an artist in the music business, or if you listen to music. And we consider if you listen to music, you're part of the music community. And we were lucky to get involved with the Denver Music Advancement Fund. So huge thank you to Denver Arts and Venues. We were able to get a grant from them and actually start investing more into the project. And so now we're turning it into a nonprofit. And Spencer and I actually used some of that grant money to get trained in mental health first aid. So we are now certified to teach mental health first aid. So we're very much looking forward to be able to teaching those classes and certifying folks. The National Council has been rapidly trying to transition that curriculum to be all virtual because it used to have to be done in person. And of course, this is the new normal. So in the next couple of weeks or months, we're looking forward to rolling that out and certifying our community in mental health first aid.
Cool. Spencer, anything you want to add to that preamble?
Yeah, please. And thank you, Angela, for that lovely introduction. And Gigi, thank you for having us so much. As Angela said, Music Minds Matter started recently, but the inception came about 2 years ago when we started a mental wellness meetup for the music community members of Denver, Colorado, and beyond. It kind of started out of necessity. As Gigi mentioned before, I'm a musician. I've been playing, I've been an active member of the music scene in Denver for the last 7 years or so. And I outreached a Facebook group in a critical moment for myself. I started to have some, not dark thoughts necessarily, but I started to question everything. Like, why am I doing this? Is anybody listening to the music that we make? Is anybody going to buy our shirts, or, a myriad of things? And so in kind of like my last, I don't know, I was grasping at straws and asking our music community if we had a place where we can all get together and chat about these struggles with mental wellness. And the overwhelming response was, no, but that sounds awesome. You should start that. Not exactly what I was hoping for.
That's how you become a Girl Scout leader too.
Yeah. Yeah. You almost get kind of like pushed into these little things. But I'm so grateful that it did happen. We started meeting in the basement of Hooked on Colfax, a local coffee shop out here. And it started off slow, but within the first few months, we started getting a lot of members, 8 to 14 members consistently throughout our 2 years of hosting this meetup monthly. The new normal has kind of forced us to host digital meetups now, and so we do those weekly, and we're seeing a great response. It's starting to open up not only to our Denver music community, but our Fort Collins, our Colorado Springs music communities, and we're hoping that with something like this, we can expand that community reach even further. We're all in this together. You're not alone. And I think that's kind of the mantra that we want to put out. We want that vibe to be very clear and very strong. And we're just here to help.
Daemun, can you pick us up now? A little bit of an intro, and then I'm going to have Connie kind of launch us into the next part of the conversation.
Sure thing. So Daemun Strange. I'm the Director of Communications at the American Composers Forum. We're a little bit older. They're old as I am. Started in 1973. But the forum cultivates an ecosystem where living music creators and their music are vibrant and an integral part of human culture. And so that's kind of what we're talking about, like how music kind of works in human culture as we go forward after this pandemic. But I'm also a composer. I spent a lot of my life working as a community organizer as well, and seeing the power of music and bringing people together and spread the news and actually hold and archive history. So I think that's the perspective I come from. I know thinking what Spencer said right now, it's been really difficult for me to create. I put that out there. I've been trying, but it's been difficult. And I'm only at this job. I started at this job 2 weeks before the stay-at-home order.
Oh wow!
So that's also an interesting perspective on the pandemic and what happens after. So yeah, that's me.
You're a legend.
So, Connie Muddier, you are at one of my favorite places, and you were going to also sort of give us maybe a provocation for the conversation.
Yes, indeed. So it's really great being on this panel, and I've been able to pick and choose a little bit here and there, hearing some of the other presenters since last night. Actually, I started watching. India was great because I am very involved in the Los Angeles area in a yoga community. And now you might ask, what does yoga have to do with music and resilience and recovery and so on? For a lot of people, it's really a lifeline. And so what has happened is one studio in particular, which is the one I go to the most, called Bhakti Yoga Shala, and Bhakti Yoga is a form of yoga like chanting. You know, you hear about mantras. Almost everybody knows what a mantra is, right? So there are quite a few artists, musicians. Kirtan Wallas is what they're called, and they're doing live streams. So Bhakti Yoga Shala actually does chanting in the morning, chanting in the afternoon. There's a sound bath in the evening. So what they've done is they're calling it the Stay Home Bhakti Yoga Shala Retreat. And so everybody knows you can go on Instagram. So I've been every morning, and then he says, oh, there's Connie and there's so-and-so. So it creates a sense of community since we can't go to the yoga studio. And to be honest with you, because of driving in LA, and Gigi can attest to this, I'm more involved now than I was before. And so a program like that, where a yoga studio is trying to take their music events, their yoga and so on, and then recreate that so people could still be in community. Their model has always been a donation based, but other artists, I'm putting their names in the chat, and then I have a presentation that I made because I thought I was giving a presentation, and I'll move that over to the Slack. But essentially people like Krishna Das, Jai Uttal, people may have heard of them. They do tour all over the world, and now that's all gone. That's vanished. Krishna Das, in fact, my tickets showed up on Eventbrite. He was supposed to be here for an evening kirtan and then a workshop, and so they postponed it to August. But then, you know, who really knows? So these different musicians, yoga instructors are collaborating to do some things together. I was also on a mini retreat that was supposed to happen at the end of May, and they did it all virtually. So the owners of the Bhakti Yoga Shala, Govindas and Radha, they did some, you know, live chanting and so on. And really there's this kind of community. Many of us live in Los Angeles, but there are people all over the world. And so it's been a great way to stay connected. And in a lot of ways, as I say, I think there are people who are becoming more active because this is a lifeline for them. One last thing I wanted to mention, and I put in the chat here. So Spring Groove is a musician, and she created this program, and I've helped to do some grant writing through a foundation called the Care Love Project. And she brings yoga, meditation, and music into nursing homes, except of course that went to a screeching halt. And in my PowerPoint, I have a picture of her singing from home, and then they were FaceTiming and going from resident to resident in the nursing home because they can't have any group activities either. And she wanted to maintain this continuity. And her song, Love is the Answer, is the theme song for the intro and outro of a podcast series I started called Love Goes Viral. So I put that in the chat as well if anyone's interested. And I'm going to do an interview with Spring and talk about how did she adapt to this. And she has something like 12 albums that she's produced and no touring. I don't even know if she's going to go to Europe this summer. So musicians have had to recreate themselves, and then through their service, offering their talents and gifts to different communities. This has been, you know, just a wonderful way to navigate this immense challenge that we're facing.
Certainly.
Actually, I have two things I'd like to say. One, I agree with you where it almost feels like certain communities are becoming more engaged, which is really encouraging. You know, for our weekly meetup, we're actually seeing people come, like Spencer said, from other cities that typically wouldn't be able to join us in Denver had it been in person. You know, we have so many technologies and ways to connect, and it does feel like there's this shift to do less broadcast and more engagement, which has been really, really nice. And then, Damien, what you said about being creative, that actually comes up often in our meetup as well. Folks feel like they're not as creative, or they feel guilty about how they're spending their time. And I think there's a lot of pressure right now just to be productive during this time. And I want to remind folks that it's okay to slow down. You know, this is totally unprecedented. It's a whole new world, and we're all going through some trauma, and there's going to be some, there's going to be some ripple effects to this. So don't put too much pressure or stress on yourself to be productive right now. You don't have to do the next masterpiece. You don't have to work at the same level as you were before.
And to piggyback off of that, Angela, I mean, as you know, I've struggled a lot, and Daemun, like what you were saying earlier about being in this lull creatively. Something that I have found to be true to myself is that this entire pandemic, the situation that we're in currently with the social distancing and everything, it helps you turn the camera inwards a little bit, or look in the mirror a little bit deeper. And for me, like, performing is one of my favorite things on the planet. Writing music is one of my favorite things on the planet. But when everything starts to fall apart a little bit, and I think that how I react to that is a true, it's like a true revelation of who I am. And so for me, this entire situation has kind of helped me get more in touch with myself, think more about self-care. Like, what are things that are super important to me right now? Like, playing shows is, yes, obviously very detrimental, but for me, I'm fortunate that I have shelter. I'm fortunate that my family is okay. It helps kind of take that very broad, that broad spectrum and kind of focus it a little bit into, like, what are we truly grateful for? This is something that I also think about on a daily basis. If I'm starting to feel low or depressed or anxious about something, I ask myself immediately, like, what are 2 or 3 things that I'm grateful for? Because once you start putting that into motion, it just starts making things a little bit more clear. But that, I mean, again, that's personally.
No, I definitely think that is a good perspective to have. Like, it's certainly one of the things that I've thought about is, my wife and I have crazy schedules because of our jobs. So one of the things, and we have a 2.5-year-old. So one of the things I've been very happy about is that family time that was so hard to make time for before this all happened. And just being the 3 of us together more is something that I certainly have enjoyed and look at in a positive way, for sure. Yeah.
I also think that I think that what Angela kind of said, that ripple effect, I think everything will kind of catch up. Like, we'll kind of establish what a new normal looks like. And so that's why self-love and self-care is so important right now, to treat yourself and those who are around you with kindness and with love. Just that mentality, because otherwise, if everyone is together and they're all feeling very anxious and very distressed, I mean, I know that a lot of my professional musician friends, my friends who were on the road 200 days out of the year touring to make money, like, that was their job. Yeah. And so now I'm realizing, again, I kind of have to take myself out of it, because I'm still able to work a couple of jobs. I'm still able to pay my bills and not have to worry about things financially, which is a massive thing that people are worried about. And so now is like the time for us, like, we just always try to check in with people. We do a stoplight check-in at our mental wellness meetups. We ask them if they're green, yellow, or red. If you're green, all systems are go, you feel great. Yellow, you're a little timid, you're on the fence, you're not quite sure how it's going to go. But red is like, you're lucky I showed up. And so just by asking people that check-in, but then also reminding them to do that check-in with themselves, so that you can just take a pause. And what you were saying, Connie, earlier is like, we try to enforce meditation. Like, we fully support, like, mindfulness meditation as a way to, like, kind of de-escalate in a sense. And it's something that I need to get better at, and I'm starting to practice what I preach a little bit. But I already know that for myself, that has helped immensely. And so just the little tips and tricks for people to be able to de-escalate in this time of crisis is massive.
Right. By the way, I have on Love Goes Viral some resources, and it includes meditation, much of which is accompanied by music. And I'm going to put Music Minds Matter up there as well.
Yay!
So wonderful. I mean, like, literally just before we got on, I'm like, I need to know more about everybody here. So I did want to also mention, Angela, I love what you said about, like, not people shouldn't be pressured to like think they should be productive and so on. And after I did this 4 podcast series and so on, and then I kind of went into this slump, and then I'm like, I guess I have to clean up my house now and stuff like that. But I wanted to mention that for some people, especially in high stress jobs, there's a woman I met actually at a funeral, or a shiva, which is a Jewish sitting with people after someone has passed away. And she was the hospice chaplain for our mutual friend. And now she's doing a lot of her work mostly on the phone, but she's also a musician. Her friend whose husband died is a musician. And suddenly she's got this creative streak and she wants to be on my podcast. Her name is Mitzi Schwartz. So she wrote Coronavirus Blues, and then she told me earlier in the week, I've got another one, and so on. And she's hoping to produce music, and you know, some of it's specific to coronavirus. But I think when people are really stressed, music is just such a powerful way. And I've even, in cleaning up the house, I found my recorders. I taught myself how to play like many years ago, and I'm thinking if I can go somewhere, you know, it's easy now. I can go someplace because nobody can go walking around each other. So I'll find some spot by the side of the road and I can play in nature and not, you know, annoy anybody else.
I love that.
You know, I love that. And, you know, one of the things that I think music itself is truth and is healing on itself. And then you're talking about your friend writing those songs. I'm thinking about the role of artists and musicians in particular as history keepers. So that song, you know, COVID blues or whatever, that's a historical record. Like that's a record of what happened. And you know, I think of, you know, when I was growing up in DC at the early age of hip hop, you know, hip hop served that function. Like we knew it was happening in New York because we got the mixtape sent down, you know, the highway to us in DC, and we would listen to each other's, you know, mixtapes, you know, across the street next door in our neighbors. But that's all history. That's all record. Like they have a very good idea of what New York was like in the late 70s and early 80s from those albums. So that you know, that's part of, you know, what music does for people. And one of the things I really like to see, just thinking that in some ways humanity was heading in like a really crazy direction before all this happened, and looking at this moment as a reset and seeing things like I think there's every Saturday in April there is a performance of Pauline Oliveros' tuning meditation, and that's like anyone can take part in that piece, which is, and you don't have to have any musical background to be a part of it. It is a piece that is democratic and universal. Like you don't have any musical skill to be a part of that. And that's how I think music in the future, and as we come out of this situation, can be a tool for healing and bringing people together. Just pieces like that.
Certainly.
City gatherings, drum circles, singing circles, all of that.
I'm very interested to see what continues after this. I think that something Angela and I talk about often is the power of live stream. Live stream has kind of disrupted every aspect of arts, of entertainment, of really anything. So, like what you were saying earlier, Dr. Strange, about live streaming these. Live streaming.
Never been said before.
Live streaming some of these, like making available every Saturday these specific meditations and things. My thing is like when the world starts to reopen again, what are we going to see? Like, when are people going to like start monetizing on this, or when are we going to, or are we going to continue this stream of like wellness, of goodness, and of like kindness? I'm very interested to see like how this impacts us at a core level, or if the tectonic plates seem to shift back into like what the old normal was. And I really do hope that this is kind of an awakening for people to again practice their self-love, and in doing so you start finding compassion for other people, you know, for yourself and for your family. So I'm very interested in seeing what happens.
Yeah, I'd like to add on that too. I love that because you're right. Live streaming, you know, completely disrupted music. It completely disrupted movies, and now it's completely disrupted live events. Right now, this one is due to COVID, but it's just interesting to see what will come next. Also, something I keep coming back to is, while we're all in quarantine, if you've turned to music, movies, dance, arts, you've turned to artists in a time of need. So what can we do now to better support our artist communities? Because even before now, it was always a challenge for the individual artist to have sustainable income to continue to do what they love. And now, a lot of artists who are also in the service industry, double whammy, like what can we do as an industry to take care of these folks, from a business perspective, but also from a wellness perspective, because we're all humans doing the best that we can. And I think artists play a massive role. And Daemun, I love what you said about kind of the history keepers. I think that's exactly right as well.
I think of music as a form of storytelling. And so when Dr. Strange mentioned, Mitzi and this sort of historical marker of the coronavirus blues and so on, but people have this need to congregate. And I work a lot virtually, as Gigi knows from fielding, and our blended model is face-to-face and virtual. And I cannot wait to be able to go back and see my colleagues. We've canceled one of our big summer events, so I may not see my colleagues for a whole year. And my concern, especially with music and all the streaming and so on, is that people get a little complacent. I mean, just think how easy it is. You don't have to dress up and, go out and drive on the freeway and so on. I do really hope that human element, that desire to connect, and hopefully even, giving hugs again and so on. That's very big, as you can imagine, in a community like a yoga community, because, we see each other at festivals and special concerts and maybe, yoga and walks on the beach and so on, which you can't even do that right now. So I'm only hoping that perhaps maybe the music community can find a way to kind of highlight that feature of it. We're here. This isn't just about entertainment. This is about connection and carrying on this, resilience of the human spirit, that we did survive this, for those of us who do. And none of us really sitting here know a year from now who of us, I'd like to think we'll all be back here for Amplify 2021, right?
Right. Well, and also as a music maker myself, I'm finding this very therapeutic. And again, not forcing myself to write when I'm not feeling creative, but when that does happen, I'm finding more of a sense of honesty with myself. When you get caught up in the music scene, it's really easy to be kind of overwhelmed by what the industry wants you to do and the sound that you should be playing and the music you should be writing. But right now it's giving me an opportunity to allow this to be very therapeutic. And I think I can speak for most musicians when I say that writing music, as a songwriter, writing music is one of the most therapeutic things that one can do. And as Angela mentioned before, it's no wonder why people are listening to music now, watching more movies, doing all of this now. It's so important to rely on those people, and I think we're all on the same page as far as what can we do to open up those doors, open up the resources for these musicians when all of this is said and done, so that they can still feel the sense of community and strip away that ego that kind of consumes the music industry and really start building that community, showing support for your friends and your loved ones, and just doing the right thing. Yeah.
I just wanted to mention that, Angela raised the question about how we're supporting these artists. That's one of the things that's been a central question at ACF since this all began. And so we did create a resource page on our website that I linked in the chat there. And I'm constantly looking to update it. We have members, community members sending resources and sharing resources all the time. And so that's what I'm doing with this page here. It's just sharing it. So it's segmented by region. It's unfortunately for our international viewers, it's all US based right now. But it also has regional funds and national funds that folks can take advantage of here.
What's the name of your webpage? Because I wasn't following the chat.
Oh, it's composersforum.org. And then if you go to that page, there's a COVID menu link there. You just click it there. It even goes into the federal response and all of that. And if you have more resources that aren't there, please email me at dstrange@composersforum. I'll be happy to add.
And can I have you guys all put in the chat how you might want to be contacted, because people will watch this later. They're going to want to talk to you potentially in the chat. So I just put Slack. I just put the Slack link in the thread. And I guess for our last kind of couple minutes to wrap up, who would you like to reach out to you for what?
That's a great question. Well, first, you can find us at musicmindsmatter.org.
I love your whole visual space. And
I recently moved into a van.
Right.
So this is my house. I've moved into a van, and so I've got my little situation. I feel so great right now. I am at a So musicmindsmatter.org. And the best way to contact us is we have a contact form on our website, so /contact. And on there, it has you enter your name, your phone number if you wish, your email, a brief message about why you're contacting us, and then at the bottom it asks you what you're grateful for. And I would love to do a quick round of that, ask everybody what they're grateful for before we leave. But we honestly want to hear from people what they need, what they're looking for. If they need to reach out for a conversation, we're absolutely there. We host our virtual Music Minds, mental wellness meetups on Mondays from 6 to 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. That is open to whoever wants to participate. So please, last week we watched a little episode of 100 Humans on a Netflix party, and we chatted in that and then jumped over to our Zoom and we had a meetup, and it was wonderful. So if anyone is in need, if anyone is in crisis, please reach out to us. Like Angela said, we're mental health first aid certified and instructors, so we know a little bit about what we're talking about, and we would love to get you to the resources that you need.
And I'll add briefly, if you are interested in taking mental health first aid, or if you have a group that you'd like us to take and certify that, please let us know too, because that's going to be a big mission of ours, is certifying our community, as many as possible, in mental health first aid.
And you can specify that in our contact form as well, so please do that.
Great. Well, I'm grateful to be part of this illustrious group and program, and I think this is a perfect opportunity for sharing resources, learning about each other, and I will, like I said, put your both sites on my resource list for Love Goes Viral. So thank you again for everyone.
Thank you.
So
Okay.
And Daemun, anything you want to be reached out to for?
Sure. Again, we at the Composers Forum really want to know how people are doing and how we can be a resource for them. So we want to know, just like Music Mind Matters, how you're doing and what do you need. And you can go to our website, again, composersforum.org. There, we did open up, we are a membership organization, but we've opened up all our resources to everyone. You don't have to be a member to take advantage of these resources at this time.
And what are you grateful for?
I'm actually really grateful for the creative community. For sure, I've seen lots of folks really step up at this time. And I'm grateful that everyone in my family is currently safe and healthy. So,
Connie, what are you grateful for?
I'm grateful that I am healthy and safe and have a wonderful family and friends and colleagues and new friends.
Cool. Angela?
I'm grateful for this space. I really appreciate the time, and I know a lot of work went into this, so being able to connect with folks and connect with new people, see faces, this has been really tremendous. Thank you.
Spencer?
I'm grateful for all of you, and Gigi, thank you so much for facilitating and keeping us all. Angela calls it cat wrangling, so thank you so much for
It was both cat and tech wrangling. I'm very grateful for there's more than a trio behind this, but for Stormglore, for us not making each other totally insane and trying to run this with about 4 weeks notice. And then Cassie and Alex, who have done yeoman's work in the background, which has been really great. So that's been a good part of this. And Matt, Molly, and Allie, and my own oldest daughter, Margaret, who's been the person moving things forward in the background since we actually got started. So.